and as usual, I want to welcome everybody to this next masterclass on how to deal with anxiety when gaming. I wanted to go over this topic because it's more important. I think it's really important to make sure that you're not only winning your games based on the certain concepts you apply in the game, but mostly if you solved something within the mental wise, yeah, you just been able to make sure your practice is effective, you always confident in your games, you don't feel anxious, you feel like everything's under control, then it always feels better. To be honest, the more success I usually seen with the students I've worked with who have, if they have good effective practice strategy, and they also just overall not anxious about how the results gonna be, they're more focused on just the, not the outcome of the game, not the wins and losses, but they're more focused on just what they do in a moment. Maybe practicing certain skills, maybe they just want to have fun. There's a lot of stuff they could be getting better at and doing better at, and this way it makes it easy for them. So what I wanted to ask you guys, when you play ranked, what do you feel like is feels the most problematic for you mental wise, if there is anything? What do you guys experience so far?
When
Well,
it gets really sweaty, that's when I get the most anxious because I know, like, if you make one mistake, that can be what loses the fight. And since I play support, it's like when there's so much going on the screen, it just overwhelms my brain and I get anxious.
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same way for me when it comes to DPS, and also it's also the fact of like some like when it like, and this is kind of the reason for why I actually have voice comms almost basically turned off. Literally, it's because there's been some times where it's like it's like they literally call it's like they whenever I'm playing pun, some people like some of them would say it's like pun, you're doing shit.
Yeah,
Like
so
like you're doing it really shitty, and
mhm.
it's like it's like they're
It's tilting.
and I'm just like, fuck you, you fucking prick. However,
Yeah.
yeah, I well no, I'm just to me it's like fuck off, asshole, or I just yeah.
Yeah, so like you described, there are some external factors which influencing you, and there's also something what you can do internally about all these things, because external factors a lot of times we not necessarily can control them, so maybe there is a way for us to think about how to interpret it in a different way so it's not affecting you too much, or maybe you find a way to deal with this stuff. I don't know if it's external factor, what's within the game. You notice that there's a certain ability you die to, or there's a certain ultimate you don't know about, you're not able to track, then that is something you can solve, right? So stuff like that, there's a balance regarding that, and also just how we interpret stuff, it's always within ourselves. Yeah, maybe choosing the right response, which is more helpful, is always important. That is something what we gonna talk more about. To be honest, I when I was playing a lot too, it's been mainly Overwatch. I even at the top level or just in general, when I decided to switch to different role, there's been moments when I felt that it just felt more anxious in a way. There's a lot going on, maybe, or you just a lot of times anxious about what people will say on your team. I think that was my problem back in the days most of the time, that like people tell me something and I'm like, oh yeah, this is not good, and this is affecting me because first off I interpret it in a certain way so it affects me, and then a lot of times we just need to understand that sometimes what they say, most of the time actually what they say, it's not about us, it's about them. So what they say is exactly what they experience, all these feelings, and if we're able to separate those from our gameplay of what we do, then it becomes pretty good. Well, it's just gonna be more effective performance, and that is something what we're gonna talk about too. Just making sure we're able to work with all those thoughts. But yeah, let's start with this first page. It's gonna be just how do we understand that you have an anxiety, just basic things maybe some of you guys may recognize as when you have an excessive worry, or fear about in-game events or situations, something happens, and you think, oh, like what my team will think of me, or what everyone, maybe even the enemy team will think of me if I have bad stats. Maybe I don't do too much healing, or I die a lot. Yeah. What about that? My teammates, they're just gonna blame me whatsoever. What if I get bad teammates? That is another thing. What a lot of people might experience too. They just don't want to go in ranked because they think their teammate's gonna be bad for whatever reason. A lot of the people, and there's a big myth. They say, well, don't play on weekends, so don't play on those types of the day. This is not true. Like my experience been just not only as a coach but as a player overall. I've been playing it's been around 8 years. All the hero shooters, never been the case. It's always mostly interpretation of all those events. Like you think, oh, the weekends are not as good, and at the same time maybe you think that, okay, like I got bad teammates, what can I do? And then you interpret it in a bad way, so your gameplay gets really bad as well. A lot of times when we start paying attention to something external, it can be enemy team, it can be your team, then it becomes more worrying for you. So our solution a lot of times making sure that we point the focus towards ourselves a little bit more. But yeah, I will talk about that more later on. This is important. What if I get bad teammates? Yeah, what if something bad happens? What if my character gets banned? Or what if there's a certain character that flank me? What I'm gonna do? And you're not confident in taking the duel and landing the shots as well. A lot of times this can happen too. What do you do about all of that? A lot of times, if you have a difficulty concentrating or focusing on something, it might be that you cannot think clearly, feel dizzy, you have too many thoughts. Sometimes players that tell me, I'm trying to track this and that, and I'm thinking about my positioning, about my decisions, what I need to use next going in the fight, what kind of ultimates they have. And because they have too many thoughts, it becomes overwhelming. It's really difficult for you to be normal in the game if you perform it this way, because the best players, they not focusing on everything at once. It just becomes more automatic. Yes, they did put an effort into focusing on certain details, but they did it step by step. So it's important that you also work on everything step by step, able to process that. It's like driving your car. If you're trying to drive the car as soon as possible, and you let's say instructor tells you, let's go in the city and drive, but you don't even know how turning the wheel works, that you have to look around, all that stuff, it becomes really complicated, I think, because your working memory is really busy with all that stuff. So something we gotta keep in mind. Now, if you cannot focus on specific goal while gaming, this can also be another criteria. It's just there's can be certain graph, maybe, maybe at the one side there might be too many thoughts, where you just have too many things to focus on, and then on another side, I will say there's just I'm not able to even focus on one goal. This can also be the case. You might notice that you can autopilot or you're not being consistent. By the way, I specifically marked those here because you can read about how to deal with autopilot and just how to be consistent later. I've done masterclasses on that before, so it can be good to just go over whatever you guys want to. I think the lessons are pretty in-depth overall. So you can click all the links. I will send you the materials. You can go over that a little bit more too. But autopilot is typically the situation where you're not able to put conscious effort in terms of improving a certain stuff, and it becomes difficult for you to just actively work on something. That's how I would phrase it. Not being consistent, that's another thing where you just have ups and downs, but like we discussed in our masterclasses before, nobody's consistent, to be honest. Even pro players, they have bad days and good days. So the problem is just how you deal with bad days and what do you do on good days. If you're not able to make sure that bad days feel better, I don't know, maybe you need to take breaks more, maybe you need to work with your thoughts a little bit more, with what you're practicing on a little bit more, because even on the bad days we can still get something out of our session if we're able to get better at our positioning, or we can get better at our timing or whatever. It always becomes easier, stuff like that. Okay, this is two main reasons. Yeah, like this here and this here. We'll move forward. But do you guys have any questions about what I mentioned so far? Maybe anything what you guys want to add? If everything is clear, we'll move forward.
Those are that's I mean, like, a lot what you said is, like, the bad teammates, thinking about your own performance, those are definitely factors. Especially, like, when I play strategist, it's like because people always seem to wanna blame the healers for everything.
Yeah, a lot of times they say, oh, well, support difference or like strategist difference, GG, go next. But they can say
GG
that.
no heals.
Yeah, exactly. GG, no heals whatsoever. This is always the case. It just, and that's why we're gonna talk about how you can deal with that later on, because I also been experiencing that quite a lot. That's understandable. A lot of the students I worked with, I see that affecting them a lot, so I actually been able to write certain materials so it helps them a little bit. But yeah, hopefully this masterclass, at least 1-2 points, will be helpful, so you guys can take advantage of that in your games. Okay, if I move forward with just other reasons, when you notice that you have an anxiety, it might be not only mentally, you notice something about your thoughts, you notice something about your focus, but it can also be even in your body, a muscle tension. It can be, in my experience, it just can be in pain in the neck, it can be the wrists, it can be just honestly anything like arms. It's usually upper body is usually feel more tensed, I would say. But when you recognize that, you usually notice that your aim becomes too jittery. You notice that, and that is something what we talked about in how to fix your aim masterclass, that there's been one person whose aim is really confident. It's not as shaky because they're not tensing up. Their crosshair is not going left and right all the time. And there's another person, because they're more anxious, their crosshair like this. So it kind of shakes a little bit. So it's less consistent, especially if you're playing hit scan. It becomes really complicated. You cannot hit your shots. And a lot of times it can be the sign that, well, if you see this kind of constant going crosshair left right, it might be anxiety as well, but not necessarily. Obviously, it might be one of the reasons. If you notice that most of the reasons above they resonate with you, then probably there's might be something you need to solve regarding that. But another thing is avoidance of certain situations or activities. Like I said, maybe you're avoid taking duels, you're afraid of those duels, you're afraid to play ranked in general, you're afraid to lose your rank. This is really common as well. I think just a lot of people fixate on their rank, but in reality, to get to a certain rank, you need certain amount of skills. You need certain skills, and if you have those skills, then you inevitably get your rank, right? There's no top 500 player who is telling you, I'm stuck in silver, I'm stuck in bronze. Why? Because they always have this certain skill set which allows them to move forward and beyond, just move towards their comfortable rank, basically. Stuff like that. Now, how do you deal with anxiety? First off, most important is to build confidence, and there are multiple ways to do that. With a lot of students, what we've done most of the time is making sure that because I'm doing sessions in one-on-ones, because I'm working with teams, I want to make sure they're prepared. And if they are prepared, it always feels easier for them to go in a match and be confident. They can work on something. They're not as anxious about thinking about all the things which can happen. They're just exactly focusing on something actionable and positive. That way it makes it easier for them. So it's just step by step going, making sure that you learn that skill, and then you can go and learn another skill step by step. Now, when you're building confidence, you might be afraid of something, but a lot of times the strategy can be to not be afraid of maybe losing your rank or of taking the duel, is exactly try to do that more. That's what we do most of the time, especially with new students when they trying to just get better at aim or just get better with landing shots in general. Just making sure that they getting exposed to situations under pressure. If they're able to be exposed to those situations more and more, it becomes easier for them. They will not feel as anxious compared to the students where they just be in only aim training in Kovacs and just similar aim trainers. It's always going to be easier if you go in the real game scenario, that there are real bots shooting you. Even if, I don't know, you create custom game, you can create custom games, set bots, and those are shooting you back. This is better compared to just shooting normal moving targets. Even though there's a lot of random movement involved, this is good, but it's always better if there's a movement and pressure involved too, so it becomes easier too. Now, when we are trying to compare ourselves to someone, this is another thing, because when we do that, when we compare ourselves to others, we really telling ourselves we're not good enough, usually, because you kind of not, and you necessarily don't know all the resources the other person got. You don't necessarily know that, oh, like, if you're trying to compare one stat of yours to their stat, is it the best criteria for you as well? Because you running certain composition versus their composition, and in every situation the stats can be different. I can give you an example. There might be examples where you dying a lot can be a good thing. Let's say you die, but you have a good spawn. You just respawning and the enemy spawn camping you. They kind of just in your spawn, but you die and you get somebody with you. This is better compared to not dying. Like in this case, this is a good death, and that's why just focusing the stats alone is not going to be good enough. You usually need to make sure that you focus on the value you can get in the fight, and comparing yourself to yourself, like your skills you're trying to practice to your skills going forward. You need to just compare how do you take angles, how do you use certain skill, how do you use your ultimate. This always makes it easier because you exactly know all the resources which you got and how the practice been. Yeah, you can rewatch your games whatsoever, but when you compare your game to someone who you watch on, I don't know, like you watch somebody's highlights, or you just go on YouTube and there's a top 100 player who got like insane amount of stats, and they usually name those videos like 60 kills, insane like 20k damage, and then you watch this and you compare yourself to that person, it's not gonna do too good. Yeah, you need to make sure first off, well, it's good to be inspired, but then maybe learn something. I a lot of times even encourage you can stop their gameplay when you watch and just ask what I could have done in this situation if I was right there in the game. Maybe they play Hala, they take an angle, and then you ask yourself, well, what I could be doing next, and you stop and see what the player is exactly doing. Yeah, this is a good thing. Yeah, see, we're comparing not the stats, we're comparing the actions of the player, and you're trying to learn. Yeah, you're not kind of judging yourself as well. You're trying to learn, kind of put yourself in their shoes sometimes, and just make sure that you react accordingly. A lot of times I would say usually need to assume that the player's decisions are okay, but sometimes execution can be lacking. So this way it becomes easier for you to practice and learn something when you watch them. But yeah, anyway, we just need to make sure additionally is maybe even the most important is focusing on what you can control. This is easy said. Like a lot of people, they say, well, focus on what you can control, then it makes it easy for you to play and practice. But to be honest, you need to understand what is that about. I would say, because your team can always make mistakes, right? They can always do this and that, and a lot of the students that tell me, well, I'm trying to play tank, or I'm trying to play strategies, I'm trying to heal that person, or I'm trying to protect that person, it's not working. Yeah, and it's a team game. Yeah, there's always a comment out there that there's a team game, it's important to enable those people. Yes, it is, but first off, you need to focus on how do you get value, because this is the only thing you can control. You cannot control the teammates who you're trying to heal fully, and always think about them, but not thinking about your own proactive play. You see what I mean? You always need to solve your proactive play first, and then think about how to support your team in addition. So sort of like in real life, you need to make sure that everything is good within yourself, and then you can start helping others in a way. Maybe if you really want to. But this is important. This way it becomes easier for you to carry the game, so you exactly know what kind of mistake you've done. You get the feedback based on all of that, what you see on the screen. Yeah, focusing like that helps a lot. I even would say, like Gun said, I think they sometimes leave the chat. If leaving the chat feels better for you, if you know that your performance is gonna be better because of it, I would say do that. It's fine. This way you can also focus on what you can control more. Maybe later, when you recognize that voice chat is not influencing your performance too much, maybe you can include the voice chat as well, and it's okay. Well, if you're talking about the team setting, obviously, if you guys play scrims, then communication is quite important. But if it's just normal rank, I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to, at least initially. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Voice is good, but initially, I don't think it's too important. Okay, do you guys have any questions about all of this? Building confidence. Yeah, no questions? Sorry.
At least for me, no, not really.
No questions. Okay, perfect.
No questions currently.
Okay. Yeah, because it's just step by step, really. If you're able to maybe start with that, build the confidence, I definitely would say focus on points 1, 2 first, maybe, and then it will feel easier. Let me see if there's anything else to it. I have some notes as well. I just kind of put in bullet points in here, just from my sessions, and there's been some articles. I've been also writing down the stuff about that. So I kind of put in bullet points, and maybe whatever I can add based on the notes I have, I might do it later on as well. But yeah, we can just move forward with this. I just recognized that when I would have the text here, a lot of text, it would just, that would be so much. So I just I decided to not do that. I just did put in bullet points. I think this is enough. But if you guys want me to elaborate on any of the bullet points, let me know. Okay. Now, another thing is taking breaks. This one is, a lot of times people skip that, and everyone knows that it's important, but this is the stuff sometimes people don't do, right? But if you do that, this is pretty good. If you're able to comfortably take breaks, 10, 15 minutes breaks every hour or so, I think. And if you're doing some other activities that are not related to PC, then it becomes easier for you to recharge. If you're just sitting there in front of your PC right away, and trying to relax this way, even watching YouTube, even just playing quick play with your friends, it's less relaxing compared to doing something else. Yeah, it just always works this way. If you're able to take break complete break, always better. And I'll usually encourage people, if they're able to have some sort of discipline with their breaks. For me, for example, a lot of times it's been that if I lose 2 or 3 games, I just take a break no matter what. Your brain a lot of times might tell you that, well, everything's fine, we've been playing okay, just bad teammates, or the enemy team, they got the smurf, or there's a top 500 player, I don't know, doing a ranked GM whatsoever, and it becomes difficult. But no, it's so important to be disciplined no matter what. Just take a break and let your body recharge, relax, and it'll feel easier. Generally speaking, there's always going to be a spike of performance, even though you might think that you're performing okay, it's still better. This is more consistent, I think, doing it this way. Now, really, your activities can be anything, like I mentioned. So yeah, I just kind of generated an image, which what you guys can do: go for a walk, maybe play with your dog, I don't know, anything. Now, another thing is, when you are taking breaks, it can be taking breaks, it can be just you doing something outside of the matches too. If you're able to maybe do some sort of meditation, people, a lot of times they call it like mindfulness, you kind of just fully focus on yourself, like your body, all the responses, yeah, maybe all that tensity which you could have in the arms, in your neck, your body in general. If you're able to make sure this is solved, it becomes easier for you, because you might even hear that when you w- when you on this therapy and well, I don't know, like from psychologists, for example, yeah, they tell you, well, there's always going to be some sort of response from your body when you do something. Works the same way in gaming. What I observed when I was working with teams, if there's anxious player, then because it's really tense for them, their body is tensing up, then it's not allowing them to play properly. So if you can pay attention to your body a little bit more and make sure it's relaxed, just by doing some sort of meditation, for example, it can always work better long term. There's also something what you can do in game, what we've done a lot with the players, because they're not able to just go in and take the break because they're in a match. You can do slow breathing. That's how I call it. Deep breathing, slow breathing. You usually need to take the laziest breaths you can, inhale, and then you gotta exhale. So if you repeat that 3 times, maybe it's usually enough. Really, just trying to do the laziest possible, then reduces your stress, because our heart rate is always increasing when you guys are anxious. So if you're able to decrease it by slowing down your breaths, it becomes easier for you. Your responses with the body, it just becomes less anxious, and the aim becomes less jittery. Your decisions becomes less anxious too. Yeah, there's gonna be high chance that you will actually hit the ability, stuff like that. Okay, now. Oh yeah, there's a question. Is this going to be on Gosa later? I missed the first part. Yeah, it will be there. I will put all the links in the class and drills, by the way, so you guys are interested. Yeah, everything's alright. Yeah, for now, do you guys have any questions about this? I can elaborate if you guys want to. I just included two most common things. There's definitely some others, but any questions? Maybe deep breathing, maybe meditation. I don't know. Meditation, that is something what you can discover by yourself. You probably can Google all of that stuff, but it can be good.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
So I noticed, like, for me, my anxiety mostly shows up as the much muscle tension, like you mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
And so I'll death grip my mouse. And I've been getting better at catching myself do it. But like, in the moment, it's pretty hard to, stop and then take deep breaths. Is there anything you would suggest, like, for the like in the moment when I notice
Mhm.
I'm gripping too hard?
Yeah. So it's like with any other bad habit, really. What do you usually do if you notice that you're out of position, right? You catch yourself, well, I'm out of position in the game. What is that about? Yeah. It's just kind of, we had those previous habits, and you are on sort of autopilot, and you're just implementing all the stuff you've been doing before. Yeah, you maybe not playing corners as much, maybe we're not on the right angle. And this exact thing about this here, you just have this habit of tensing up in a certain situations. So how do you fix that? Is you want to make sure you go another road. So there's kind of, your mind is like a road. You go on one path, but with building other habits, you consciously choosing another road. So instead of going like this way, yeah, my usual way, I go somewhere like a little bit right or a little bit left. That doesn't matter. Yeah, just making an analogy. Yeah, you're choosing another road to go for, and a lot of times what will happen to your mind is you actually will go towards that first road anyway. But the more you do, the more conscious effort there will be, the easier it's gonna be for you to build the pathway on the second road and actually go that road. Yeah, so this is what we're trying to do, is building all the good habits and removing the previous ones. We just need to make sure that we replace some unhelpful behavior, whatever unhelpful behavior you have, is slightly more helpful. Slightly more. This is an important thing, because some people, they will tell you, you gotta make sure there's something something intense you gotta do, something extreme, like you gotta do this and that. Maybe I don't know what kind of analogy I can give right now. There's no analogy for now, but yeah, anyway, there's a lot of extremes. People that tell you, well, you just gotta be, I think a good analogy can be when people, they're doing some sort of extreme diets, for example. They start just stop eating something, and then eventually it becomes so they become so much more stressed, and Why? Because they didn't build good habits fully, and they'd been not able to implement it in the long term. So this is the same thing. Just make sure you choose slightly more helpful response for you. If you gripping the mouse too hard, well, it can be just always reminding yourself, have this goal in your mind. Well, I'm trying to make sure I'm consciously relaxed and put attention towards the exact part of the body. Yeah, like for example, your wrist is too tensed up, or your fingers, or maybe there's arm or posture. You might figure out a lot of stuff actually. That is something what we talked about before in the aim masterclass. There a lot of the factors might influence your aim. It's just how you sit, what's your chair, what's your table, what's your monitor, yeah, how is it positioned. Yeah, you might notice a lot of that stuff, and once you're fixing, just make slight better adjustments, it becomes easier. That's what I would recommend, honestly. Just start with small thing and make sure there's a conscious goal. I would maybe put in my goals, your goals on the spreadsheet, maybe create a Google Doc. That's what I do with the students. We just kind of slowly building the habits, and then we revisit the habits. Well, we see how the progress is, and then we build other habits. So the progress is steady. We can go on the road. Yeah, I want to make sure that the student worked on the previous stuff too, so we can actually see the feedback, what's happening, what's not happening. Yeah, what's hard, what's easy for them to do. So step by step. I don't know if this is good enough. Does it answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No problem. I'm glad to help. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? So we can be moving forward. Okay. If no questions, let's move forward. And it's again more boring on boring side, but important. Making sure that your overall health is fixed. Like we said, that just in general, your anxiety can be connected to something what's within maybe yourself, like the way you sleep. Maybe if you don't get enough sleep, there's a well, some people they could tell you, I'm just not sleeping, like sleeping 4 hours or 5 hours. This is good enough, but there a lot of variables within that. So first off, are they getting enough rest for the long term? Isn't that gonna build up this way? So they're gonna be more anxious in their games or just in general, even in real life. And maybe when they actually not getting enough sleep too, how is that affecting their games? They think they're doing fine, but maybe they could be doing more. And there's also another thing that everyone's different. So the other person telling you that, well, if you're not getting enough of something, enough sleep, or maybe anything else what's related to what we mentioned before. Yeah, like maybe you're not taking breaks. They tell you, oh, well, don't take breaks and everything's fine. But you see, it's like driving without a seatbelt. You can be good driving without a seatbelt. Sure, it can go okay, but then there's a chance that something will go wrong, and because there's no seatbelt, then you cannot protect yourself, right? There's always a high chance if I'm driving without a seatbelt that something bad will happen. This is kind of the same thing. So you really want to make sure that all the variables are in place, even though everything feels fine, but you need to figure out even this stuff is still really important. Yeah, drink enough water, eat nutrition-rich food. Easy to say, but yeah, a lot of people skip that. Exercising, obviously, really important. Now, we come to the mentality part, and this is gonna be mostly working with your thoughts, and I usually recommend make sure you do that step by step, to be honest, instead of just trying to work on everything at once. Like we said, if you're anxious about something, you're trying to think about too many things sometimes. Don't have to do that. You always can treat it this way. Okay, I have this problem. This is the behavior. This is the problem. Well, I can even put it on the... I just do this here. Okay, this is the board. Yeah, just whatever problem you have. Okay. Let's say this is the problem. Yeah, whatever problem I got, and then I just need to choose slightly better behavior, just slightly better. Let's say we need to make sure we choose slightly better habit. Yeah, make sure we do something. If it's just 1% better, 2% better, there's gonna be enough, and that's how you can work with all those thoughts too. So whenever you're choosing, pre-choosing our response instead of reacting, this can be a good thing. How to do that is you just need to figure out what's triggering you. I will explain that a little bit. So this is something what you can use in real life too, probably. Again, this is more of the coaching tool. It's not like any sort of therapy or something, but this is the coaching tool we're typically using in our sessions. There's gonna be a fact whenever you've just in the game or whenever you in the match, well, it doesn't matter. Even in real life, there's always gonna be a fact you're facing, and that is something we cannot switch. We cannot. It's always going to be there. Let's put it this way. You cannot change that. Now, let's say your teammate is throwing, or let's say there is someone who's dying a lot. Yeah, you notice the stat. This is the fact. You cannot change that. Maybe there is a teammate who's telling you something that tell you, oh, GG no heals, and this is triggering you. But this is the fact. You cannot change that. They exactly told you that. Okay? Now, when there's a fact, there's a certain thought which will appear. And because there's a certain thought, you get certain feeling, and after the feeling, you do actions. Our job with this is recognize that because you do certain actions, it gets you to certain results, and our job with this tool is making sure that you acknowledge all the thoughts, feelings, and actions you're doing, and make sure you do slightly more helpful ones. So, for example, a lot of times people will tell me, well, this guy told me GG no easy, and then they think, the person who is telling me that story, they think that, okay, this game is lost, this guy is throwing, like, they're not gonna do well, whatsoever, they feel frustrated, and then with actions, it becomes more anxious. Yeah, the aim becomes more tensed, they just maybe not using the abilities correctly, not tracking ultimates whatsoever. We just notice all that stuff, write it down, and then as a result, it's going to be harder for you to win the game. So when you know all of that, you can reverse this model, just make sure you put it on the list again, and make sure you choose more helpful actions you can do, so it's kind of going to work backwards. Yeah, you need to pre-choose actions you could be doing in those situations, usually. Make sure that there's a certain feeling which supports that, and certain thoughts which can be supporting that too. Well, so how we could be doing that with that specific example? Well, maybe with actions, we can pay attention to, like we said with the base John, yeah, they said, okay, my actions that I'm gripping the mouse way too hard. Okay, this is the way to just respond to certain facts to that anxiety. Okay, that's fine. So our action can be is making sure that it's more relaxed. Yeah, maybe let's start relaxing our fingers. Let's start relaxing our wrist. Let's sit comfortably. Let's have a good posture. Actions, more helpful actions. Now, feeling is also an important one. You want to make sure that when you do all these actions, there's a certain feeling which is motivating you, which is sort of more positive. In a way, it's not like you telling yourself affirmation, I'm like happy whatsoever. No, you exactly start with actions which you feel more comfortable for you, and then this way it will be easier for you to respond with the better feelings. And because you have certain thoughts, like if you pre-choose certain thoughts even before going in the game, because you know that GG easy no heals is triggering you, then it'll be easier for you to react in a different way if you pre-choose that pattern. Like we said with the roads, yeah, you can choose to go left road, the usual pattern, or like the right high road, let's say. And how do you pre-choose? Is to exactly write down the goals. Make sure that, okay, this is the thought. Maybe I want to focus on making sure that instead of thinking, this game is really bad, this guy's throwing, maybe choose a more helpful thought. You could be choosing, well, I'm trying to work on this and that. Or maybe I'm trying to have fun. This can be the thought. And at first, it will be hard. At first, you still go to that first model, to your previous habits. It happens, but it's okay. But then at the end, you can, because you do that more and more, you're inevitably gonna feel better with all the actions you're doing, with all the feelings, thoughts, and it will be easier to choose the high road, the better path, in a way. That's how I would say. Just make sure work conscious with the thoughts this way. This is a really good model. Maybe you can apply that later on. Just first off, TLDR is make sure you recognize whatever the pattern you have, and then the second is choosing the pattern, making sure that you make it slightly more helpful, and then consciously do that. There's inevitably, if you water the plant, it's inevitably gonna grow. Yeah, water the tree, it's inevitably gonna grow. If you know how to exactly take care of the tree, it's gonna be growing. It might take time. It might be that you need to learn something, some additional information, but it's fine. This is how it works. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about this model here? If not, we can move forward. But yeah, is it clear? Because this one is pretty important. If you guys can apply that, I would be glad, really. Okay. If there are no questions, we can keep watching the other stuff. Well, I kind of mentioned just pre-choosing your response, and another thing is just positive self-talk. Well, it's not necessarily that you have to always tell that like everything's fine, everything's good. You're more focusing on this exact sought stuff here. You're kind of focusing on that more helpful response you can be getting, which allows you to move forward. That's how I would keep it. Yeah, it's not like everything's good. Yeah, it's you need to exactly think about the facts, about the situation you've been facing, and then make sure you choose a more helpful response. That's how I would put it. And a lot of times we just need to also start off with, like I said, acknowledging the problem, and then after that you will be fixing that. And with your fixing the problem, it can also be like I said here. It can be more structured. I really like structure most of the time. When I write down stuff, when I've worked with the students, I write down the notes for them, and I want to make sure that they always can go back, refer to those notes. It makes it easy for them to work on all the problems. So this is the way you can work on your anxiety. You can write down structured notes on piece of paper. So structure, it just makes it easy for you to understand. You can break it down like we described here. You can break it down different way. Yeah, maybe this is, well, a lot of times I do it this way, actually. With my students, we do it this way, where on one side we have the problem, and on another side we have solution. Easy, really easy to implement. Problem, solution. What are possible solutions to the problem? I can do this, I can do that. And when you have that theory, you're just gonna go and test it, how it works for you. It can be even within your gameplay. If you done what of you identify the problem, or there's a coach, they're telling you, okay, those are the problems, X, Y, Z. And then they tell you solutions, okay? Usually good coaches, they might give you multiple solutions, actually. Sometimes it can be just doing this and that. Yeah, they explain why the solution works, and then you go and test it. This is always becomes easier, more structured, yeah. Stuff like that. Another is opposite, is writing down all the chaotic notes you have. This is mostly can be done if you're not sure about all this stuff, if you're not sure about the structure, what is exactly triggering you. For example, I just don't know, I just feel anxious. There's a lot happened in the game, I lost a lot, I'm not sure what's happening with me. Just write down whatever you think, and you don't have to actively think about what you're writing. Yeah, this is how I put it. Just write stuff. It can be chaotic. You don't have to make it to send it to any publisher. Yeah, you don't have to make it complicated. Just make sure you write down stuff, and then after that you can make the structure. This is how I would do that. Probably start with chaotic notes, becomes easier. Okay. The questions which can help with the structure, by the way, maybe after you actually wrote down a lot of stuff about just what happened in the game, and you need to figure this out. I usually would ask myself, why do you feel nervous? Yeah, find the root cause. Yeah, maybe this is because I feel nervous. This is the fact I was stressed about. You can also think about what is the worst thing that could happen if the specific event occurred. We talked about how a lot of people, they're afraid of losing their rank, or afraid of what their people tell them. Yeah, their teammates, maybe they tell you, GG, no heals. But what the worst thing would happen if this event occurred? Yeah, and especially if you're being exposed to this situation more and more, a lot of people, they start recognizing that everything is fine. There's nothing to be anxious about. Basically, it's just a game. no matter what. And it's not like your friend's gonna dislike you suddenly, or something's gonna, your relative's gonna tell you that you're bad person, right? It's just a game at the end of the day. A lot of people start recognizing that once you actually been exposed to those situations, and you exactly would thought about what is the worst thing that can happen. We need to be realistic. Yeah, a lot of times we as humans tend to overthink a lot of stuff. This is a good note. We can also think about what could go right if the specific event occurred. This is another thing. It's just whenever you maybe not sure, should I play, should I work on this and that, maybe you feel anxious going in the game when there's a coach, they told you, okay, you gotta work on this and that. But it just feels pretty anxious. Okay, you can also make sure that you exactly write down what will happen, what is the outcome, what is that good result you will be getting. By the way, it's here. Yeah, the good result we need to get. It can be within your goals, it can be within the, not only in game goals, it can be even mentality, anything related to the effective practice, stuff like that. So what can go right? And another thing is, what can you do to feel better and happier? That's like I said, just making sure that you choosing slightly better response. There's a possibility that it will feel slightly better at least, and this is fine. You can work on small things, make sure that later you can add more stuff. You don't have to jump on top of the mountain instantly. Just make sure you walk step by step, and this way it will make it easy for you to climb. Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, okay, I'm starting from bronze to GM, and it's really complicated to get on top of the mountain. But what matters is the journey. You just need to make sure that you know the exact next step, you make it, and then if you make 1,000 steps, it becomes easy at the end. Okay, what do I need to work on as a player can be lost? We mentioned that kind of, it's just what is the next step I can take to be a better player, to achieve my goals, and you need to be really specific with those two. Okay, do you guys have any questions about all of that working with your thoughts? Writing down notes, all of that stuff. Do you guys like those images too? I generated those for the class. Everything's clear? Okay, perfect. Let's move forward. Now, and this is what is really crucial when you're just getting in the game, because a lot of people might feel anxious because they don't have exact goal in mind, or maybe there are too many goals in mind. You just need to set those. You need to make sure that, because some people that tell me, okay, I'm trying to focus on my positioning, I'm trying to focus on cooldowns management, but they've been not even telling them what to focus on before the match. Yeah, they didn't prepare any sort of notes, any sort of, I don't know, maybe you can put it on just write down in the text, you can maybe just have everything on a piece of paper. You didn't have the goals, so it becomes more chaotic. But you just gotta set something realistic, and realistic goal is exactly whatever the next step I can get to. It's just really, I don't want to phrase it like I want to work on my positioning. This is way too general. You need to break it down more and make sure you focus on a certain theme. Positioning, for example, can be broken down on how do I take angles, how do I position the corners, how do I take high ground, stuff like that. There's a lot of related concepts to the positioning, so you can work on that step by step. And I usually suggest to focus on 1-2 goals while playing. Honestly, start with one, it's enough. You don't have to work on too many. One specific small goal, this is enough. Write down stuff and make mistakes. Go on and make mistakes to progress your goals, so you get the feedback. Because if you don't get any feedback and you don't make mistake, then it becomes hard to progress. You don't know what is that next step to take. Yeah, you're not, for example, a lot of people that tell me, well, I'm trying to heal that teammate, I'm trying to protect this guy and this, and it's not working. It's a lot of times because we focus on others and we're not going for our own proactive play because we're afraid to make mistakes. It becomes complicated in the long term, and it's hard for you to progress. So like I said before, just go in for your proactive play, take the best angle possible, make sure you do the most pressure first, and only after you're gonna think about how to support your teammates in any certain way. Especially, it's important for strategists, in my opinion. That's what I've been always talking about in Overwatch sessions, in Marvel Rival sessions. A lot of strategists, there's a tendency that they tend to over-support, over-heal, but you could be setting up your own pressure. In reality, if you set up your own pressure, then your teammates take less damage. It becomes easier for them to do stuff. Okay, now effective practice, it's also another point which allows you to be prepared. Like I said, just being prepared always it will always help. So you can self-auto review, you can warm up. By the way, I also done masterclass on self-auto review, how to self-auto review. It's been back in the day, so you can click on this link and it will get you to the masterclass. You can also take a look at that. I think I didn't mention about how to fix your aim. It has been on about autopilot, consistency, all that stuff. It's all free. It's all there. The academy. Warming up. Warming up is something we went over in our previous masterclass too. I usually suggest 15-20 minutes warm up. So this way you set certain routine which allows you to feel less anxious. If you have that routine, you go in a match, you probably saw, I don't know, some football players, so maybe like in tennis or something, they might make certain rituals as a team which makes them more confident. They kind of like, okay, like they're doing this and that, and then they go in the match, it feels that they're more prepared. Yeah, it's the same goal can be achieved with the warm-up if you treat it as a ritual as well, and if you do it consistently, can allow you to deal with anxiety to a certain degree. With having fun is pretty big thing as well. You'd not necessarily have to only focus on climbing. You're just getting whatever the rank you can, but you can also make sure that you differentiate between this active practice when you grind and having fun. So there's gonna be, and it's different for every players. Obviously, if I just sit with a player and they tell me, I want to get the highest rank possible, I will tell them, well, you gotta play at rank most of the time. But in reality, when you play rank most of the time, you also might be exhausted too, and that's why you gotta find a balance. If you recognize that you played rank so much that it becomes exhausting, and it's maybe will be more anxious for you, it will be not too good experience. That's why you need to make sure that there's some amount of hours which is devoted to having fun. And active practice hours, you need to invest the amount of hours which allows you to stay active. Okay, like I said active 2 times, but this is important. The active hours, you need to stay active and focused. Let's put it this way. If you recognize that you're not focused during the practice, maybe just play on autopilot, then you probably need to decrease the amount of your active hours. You maybe just need to have fun a little bit more and make sure that you slowly increase the active hours playtime. And like trying your hardest, making sure you push your limits. Those are exactly those hours, active practice. And having fun, it can be playing with your friend, playing on second account, like a lot of people do, stuff like that. Just make sure you differentiate between this. Muting voice helps out too. Like Gun said, I think it's been helping them. That's what I usually suggest too. If it's affecting your performance, why not? You can definitely mute something. You can mute the voice if it's affecting your performance. And it's easy to say, but hard to do. Like enjoying gaming process. This is important. But let's put it this way. If you recognize that the game, just put on learn term for some reason, whatever game is not enjoyable, and probably if it's giving you more anxiety, even though you're playing with your friends, even though you dealt with all the previous stuff we talked about, you've been working with just your responses, with pre-choosing, how do you interpret certain situations, but it's still not working well, maybe you might also switch the game. You maybe can do something different, maybe do other hobbies, make sure you connect with your friends, stuff like that. It's really important too. Just we also noticed actually as a pro players, whenever there's a better culture in a team environment, in the way that they're not just playing, but they just better friends in general, and they engage in other activities outside of the match. Like that is something what I knew from Overwatch League players. There have been few interviews. I've been talking to some of the players too. It's always felt better for them in terms of the game results later on, even though they spend less hours practicing. Like a lot of times there's been this Korean mentality, I would say, where you just need to grind 24/7 and then there are gonna be results. In reality, no, there's gonna be balance. You need to find balance, make sure that you also do other things, and this way you become better human and become better player in general too. That's how I would put it. Okay. And I think for the most part, we mentioned everything. There are a lot of additional notes I can give you guys. Just in general, I have this article about the anxiety, and I can send it to you as well if you guys want to read about everything more in depth. But yeah, today we just went over some of the bullet points, which might be helpful. I hope any of those points, at least 1-2 points, if those are going to be helpful to you, then it's a big win for me, to be honest. Yeah, do you guys have any questions about anything? Is there's anything what's not clear? So far, I went over how to build confidence, taking breaks, practice mindfulness, health, working with your thoughts, setting goals, effective practice, stuff like that. Any questions? I can elaborate on anything.
I have one real quick.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're talking about warming up, what do you normally do to, like, what's a good warm up routine there? Are you just talking like practice run, or are you just talking about like more fun games and just kind of like relaxing in that sense to warm up, or either or?
I say it depends on the goals. Again, if the goal is at the end of the day decrease anxiety, if it's really if you notice that there's better, I would say, because warm up partially it's a ritual, okay? And if you're able to set up this ritual which allows you to feel more calm, less anxious, if the anxiety is the problem, then do that. It's okay. You can play normal relaxing games, normal quick play, but there's also an idea that with warm up we need to get comfortable with situations under pressure, because while we get anxious a lot of times is because we been not exposed to situations which are okay, let's put it this way. when we are, oh, sorry, I just I think I've been talking a lot. So yeah, with the warm up, it's important to expose yourself to situations under pressure a little bit more too. This is another idea, because when you do that, then it's just the more and more I'm doing that, the less anxious I will be in the real games. It's kind of like a lot of people, they tend to just warm up in the practice range, or maybe they're just normal moving bots. I think it's okay, but if there's a problem with anxiety, then I think it's better if you are also putting yourself under pressure constantly, and make sure you increase it more and more, so this way you'll get used to it. It's like we said on the first slide, yeah, it's also important. So make sure you balance between making sure there's a proper routine, which allows you to get in a certain mindset, and make sure you're also able to solve this here. So when we are tensing up to general, when we are afraid to be exposed to something, then I definitely think you need to increase the pressure slightly too. Make sure the warm-up allows you to do that as well. That's why Deathmatch, there are also FFA games in general, maybe even some of the custom games. I noticed some of the players they've been doing even just normal, put in the bots in the custom game, bots are shooting you. This is still better compared to shooting dots which are moving, only moving and not shooting you back. Yeah, you need to get used to it. Yeah, you need to get used to situations under pressure more.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Any more questions? Yeah.
So whenever you're, actually really. So when you say like practice, right? I again, I probably did have a question, but Would you say like practicing? Would you say like practicing on an all before you go into your main? Like when you say build of ritual. Wow, cannot talk to save my life.
Yeah.
Just would that be considered? Oh no, no. Now I actually remember the question. I don't know where I was going. So, you ever heard of a concept like if you believe in something, it will actually happen. Like if you fake a smile, you'll actually start smiling. I don't know if you ever heard of that psychological phenomenon, but my
Yeah.
question to you is: if you convince yourself, "Oh, I'm the best player in the lobby," would you say that's another way to? I obviously it's not going to fit everyone, but would you? How would you describe that? Would you consider it? Would you recommend it, or how would you go about it?
Yeah. 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 I think. Oh, everything's okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. I
Okay,
promise.
okay,
Oh,
no problem, no problem, no problem. Yeah,
I'm
but I
alive. I
understand the question.
promise.
Yeah, I understand the question though. So there are two sides of that, two sides of the medal as usual. It's one side is it's good, and it can be bad too. So the thing is, what I usually recommend is make sure it's more structured in a way, because what you describe is okay, I'm the best player, this and that. This is what we telling ourselves here. The thoughts will be telling like ourselves like what are we thinking about now, and this is kind of the same problem with just affirmations when they tell you like, oh, you gotta like I'm the best, I'm this and that. This is not enough. This is, and if you just do that, yeah, it also might be fake. That in a way, it's might be that you're telling yourself you're best, but what are you doing to also achieve that? Maybe you actually there's no actions you're doing. You're just telling. You're just talking and thinking about that stuff. So it's also important to break it down this way, where what are my feelings, and most importantly here, actions. Not only I'm telling, okay, I'm the best player, but what I'm doing to be the best player. This is okay in this case. Yeah, why not? I'm trying to be the best player. Yeah, I'm looking to achieve, looking forward to be the best player. Really good thought. What I'm doing with the actions. Okay, for me, I will give you an example. For me, it was basically, let's say I play the game of Overwatch back in the days. I was just saying, I will try to do my best because I'm trying to be the best player. I will try to do my best to block every shatter. Every shatter, there's been Ryan cards been pretty popular. Like I will block every shatter, and then I would just consciously track the ability, what they're doing, making sure I track ultimates. This is good. And this is exactly actionable goal too. Yeah, maybe you can also find something similar. Yeah, maybe you want to be the best at tool tracking using your ultimate. Okay, I will try to make sure there's a Doctor Strange ultimate I track non-stop, and I'm able to reposition myself. Yeah, maybe use my certain cooldown to punish them too. This is good. This is good stuff. Yeah, so not only you gotta be thinking, but also actions. Actions crucial. And maybe feelings you can also add, like what is that which is supporting your thoughts too. Yeah, does it answer the question?
Yeah, no, no, it does. So whenever you're trying to convince yourself of something, you can't just say, "Oh, I'm the best player." All of a sudden, you go from bronze 3 to one above all. No, obviously, you have to put evidence in like your words. That's why I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, and it's not like evidence. You don't have to make sure that you achieve something to have a right to say that. It's just, what is that? A pass. It's like rather you're not focusing on the result which you're achieving, but you're focusing on the pathway. So if you're choosing the champion, the best player pathway, this is what matters. So this can be the case, and it takes time to get to the certain place when you walk on that pathway, but because you're choosing that, this is good, and you can always have a right to say that, okay, I'm choosing this champion pathway now, I'm doing this and this certain habit, which allows me to be better, to stay stronger. This is good. That is good stuff. That's why, yeah, like a lot of people when they tell me, well, I would feel confident when I reach this rank, or when I would reach this and that. A lot of times, opposite. It's gonna be opposite. They still, if there's still anxiety problems, they might be more resilient to play more. They still might be thinking, oh, like what about this? If it will go wrong, this and that. My team is doing bad. Yeah, it still can happen, even though you reach the higher rank. That's because you need to solve core problems within the practice and just how you think. about all of that. Rather not result, but what is that next step I'm taking, and what is that my pathway going forward, so I'm able to build good habits, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's how
Yeah,
I
that
would
sounds about right.
yeah, that's how I would put it. My last questions really, that is something what you guys can reflect on as a last word, final word, is what kind of advice would you find the most helpful out of this? If you ever just even find 1-2 points which you can implement, this is gonna be enough, really. That's gonna be a big win. Obviously, you can study this later on. You can read all the notes. You can just watch the video. I can send you the article if you guys want to. All the additional materials to watch it, which are at the end, like how to self review, consistency class, how to deal with autopilot. But yeah, just think what you find the most helpful, make a note of it, and what is your next step in applying this? What kind of habits you can start doing? What kind of habits you can be focused on? And what you can stop doing to stay mentally focused in your game sessions. Yeah, like, oh, well, we can put it this way. For you, it can be not even mentally focused. It's just to stay, let's maybe remove that, to have less anxiety, because we've been talking about anxiety so far, and maybe you just feel slightly better. Yeah, so here to have less anxiety, and here it's gonna be to make sure, yeah, oh well, we can also put in the same thing, to be honest, to start doing to have less anxiety in your game sessions. Okay, what else? I would say that's it. Yeah, maybe you can also do some reflection on the just how the progress is gonna be in 1 week, in 1 month, in 1 year. Is it gonna feel better? How is it gonna feel? And if you're able to implement that certain advice, yeah, just reflect on that. Think about anything out of all the notes, out of all the bullet points so far. All right, that's it for today. For the most part, do you guys have any final questions?
No,
Two.
thank you for class.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad to be helpful. Hopefully, at least 1-2 points, like I said, have been useful to you guys. So if you guys able to implement that, then it's perfect. It's just all these years, I think, even me as a player and just in general, the students, it always feels one of the most important things, making sure that we mentally strong and at the same time our practice is pretty effective too. So this way you can actually go and climb and implement all the concepts. It makes it easier and easier the more you practice, the better routine you have with all of that. Okay, I will send you the notes, and yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, I will see everyone later. You can read the notes later and tag me if there are any questions. Yeah, as usual, I'm the server, so let me know if there are any questions about anything.
Perfect. Thank you.